It's easy to be positive when things are, well, positive, but it's harder to show kindness, joy, and long suffering when you're directly facing adversity. How do we not grow weary in doing good? When God has us in a hard season that He hasn't necessarily called us out of yet, what do we do in the meantime? How do we endure? All this and more, a new episode of the podcast starts now. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the New Mercies I See podcast, where we honor God in the daily living. I'm your host, Rochelle Shoyola, and if you're new to the podcast, hey, I hope that you're able to catch up on some old episodes, become family, take your jacket off, and spend some time with me. If you're a seasoned listener, I want to say thank you. In this day of podcasting, there's so many podcasts out there. I do not take it for granted that you're giving me a listen. And so I just want to say thank you, forever grateful. All right, y'all. Hey, I hope that your week has been good. I hope that your mama's good, your children's good if you have them, your family, your cousins, your sister, your brother, everybody. I hope that you've been well. What did I do last week? Last week I got into a couple of things. I feel like May just started, so I am trying to use this as like my, you know how people talk about March Madness and how they kind of like go all in? This is what I'm doing in May, so I'm kind of getting into all the things. So last week, my job did a funny bus activity where we all were able to get on this funny bus, and basically what we did was we toured the city of Atlanta, the different areas, but it was funny. There was like a comedian who basically runs the bus, and so it was really, really funny. There was a lot of jokes, and we got to make stops and all that stuff, and it was really nice to just see different areas and gaggle as well. I also, still in the work field, I also had an open house yesterday, and I was able to kind of look at a new property and also open it and have people look in it and view it. And so I did that yesterday. Additionally, Hillary had a play date, which I am always happy when she gets that. I'm definitely one of those moms who could have play dates more. And she has some kids at her school. It's really, really small. It's like only 4 of them there. And so the moms, we've kind of like, developed a little mini bond. And we had a play date with them. And oh my gosh, the kids were just having a blast. Additionally, I feel like all play dates are not the same, because all moms are not the same. And so sometimes like there's a really cool kid and the kids like each other, but maybe you and the mom just, everybody has different personalities, and maybe like your personalities just don't mesh the best. Sometimes you go to a play date and like they're just talking about things you don't care about. Sometimes they're overly talking about their kids. Sometimes they're overly talking about their spouse, and like they don't really have their own identity. Sometimes play dates can just be so this was a good one. We had a good time. There was a charcuterie board. They have a candle making business, so we were able to make some candles. We were able to just talk about different things. It was a really good time. There ended up being a tornado, so we ended up having to wrap it up. But I think we got a good bit of hanging out before we had to do that, so it was fun. In regards to this challenge that I told you about last week, I'm still eating no meat. However, I have been eating carbs, okay? Like, I'm going to try and do this over and do a true, like, raw fruit, raw veggie, juicing kind of combo. I have a trip in a couple months, and I'm trying to be, trying to shed a little bit. But I have been sticking to no meat. I'm going out of town with my mom this weekend. And so I think as of Wednesday, I'm going to start eating meat. Just so that, because they say sometimes when you stop eating meat and then you start back, like it could really do numbers for your tummy. So I'm going out of town on Friday, but I'm going to start eating meat on Wednesday just in case there anything that I need to take care of. It gets itself out during Wednesday and Thursday. Also, it's Mother's Day, and I want to eat meat on Mother's Day. Okay. All right. So that's how that is going. But all right, y'all, before we get into the podcast today, I'm like, I ain't fooling with y'all. We're not going to be talking all day about this. Before we get into the podcast, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. Like, subscribe, share, leave a review. Like, subscribe, share, leave a review. Say it with me. Like, subscribe, share, leave a review. Seriously, y'all, this is how the podcast grows, and this is how good people hear good things. So, yes. Please feel free to share this to someone that you think that it can bless. All right. Let's get into it. All right, y'all. Today we are talking about not growing weary in doing good. And I wanted to talk about this because I actually recently experienced this myself. And also because I know you have too, right? I feel like at this point in life, you probably know by now that life isn't going to be roses all the time, right? Like, we're going to go through things. We're going to experience things. In fact, we need to, right? And at this point in your life, you've probably been faced with an obstacle, right? And not just a small obstacle, right? But an obstacle that has changed you, right? That has changed the way you thought about something, the way you think about life before that moment, even the way you think about God, right? A lot of the ways that we were introduced to Christ was in the context of, if you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, then you will never hurt again, right? Or you will be healed, or it's the Lord's will for you to prosper, that prosperity gospel, and you will get the house, the car, or the job that you want, right? But then your family member gets diagnosed with cancer and they pass away. Or maybe you have a really hard season with your child. Or you have a friendship breakup that breaks you. Maybe you're stuck with a toxic boss, a neglectful spouse. Or maybe you're just in a low point of your faith where you don't know what to believe. It's times like this where life pulls the rug up from under us, right? And sometimes the answer to the question, what do I do, isn't really clear. In Romans 8, we are taught that all things work together for our good, but in times like these, it doesn't feel good, right? But I ask you, again, I feel like I ask this every podcast, what if the lens that we're looking from needs to be examined? So let's define good. So naturally, as humans, we are focused on kind of what's right in front of us, right? Like, we don't necessarily see, we can't see things big picture. When I say big picture, I don't mean just in our lives, but I mean the whole world and everyone's lives. We can't see that, right? We can't see all things. We can't be at all places at once. And we don't necessarily know the exact plan that God has for our lives, right? So we think of good things as whatever feels good to us in our portion, in our sector of life, what we can manage and what we can control, right? And what we can see. And society backs us up in this, right? So accomplishments, things like healing, love, happiness, joy, financial success. These are things that when we accumulate these things, we feel like things are going good, right? And while those things are good, they are, right? That's kind of where good, or the definition of it, starts and stops for us, right? It literally starts and stops where our dopamine does. Like, when we are feeling good, we're like, things are good. But the minute we stop feeling good, we start to get doubtful. But, what if God wants us to prosper, but in a different way? God defines good as whatever brings him glory and whatever sanctifies you in the process. And sometimes that comes through things, experiences, and lessons in life that don't necessarily feel good in the moment. And so now let's talk about not growing weary and doing good, where that phrase comes from, and how God would like for us to apply it to our lives currently today. So Paul's encouraging the believers of Galatia to and telling them what to do and warning them what not to do. So he's encouraging them to stay away from things like murder, envy, drunkenness, lust, and he's directing them in the area of what to do and exhibit fruits of the Spirit. And while he is speaking to them, writing to them, he realizes that they could be overwhelmed with everything that he's telling them. Like, this is a lot. There's a lot of information. And I know that the people that I'm speaking to could possibly just feel defeated or discouraged or just feel like they can't do it all, right? I think even today we feel like that as Christians too. Like, there are so many rules. Like, I'm never going to get it right. And that's kind of the point of Christianity. Like, the point of our religion is not to get it all right. Like, we're not the Pharisees. We're not going to be perfect, but we know where we can find perfection, right? And so bringing it back to Paul, because he's thinking and realizing that this could be overwhelming for them, he tells them the phrase, "Don't grow weary in doing good. And we will prosper and get our reward in the end if we don't give up." Right? And so doing good means conforming to the will of the Lord. And we can see that by the fruits that are bared as we continue to walk with him. As we continue to operate through the fruits of the Spirit, it will become normal to us. And once those things are normal or dominant in our lives, that's where we start to understand the true definition of good. And we see it through God's eyes versus through the lens of our feelings. Now, this is kind of where we need to look at our walk with the Lord practically and not necessarily mystically. A lot of times we do that, right? Like, it's this deep spiritual thing, and there is a part of, our relationship with God that is that. But I find that sometimes a lot of those people struggle to really just kind of get the practicality of this walk down. And a lot of times when we look at our relationship with the Lord, we look at it from a place of commission versus omission. So we're always thinking of what we should not be doing versus what we should be doing, right? And here's the thing. Doing a good thing in a hard season is hard. And we need encouragement. We need encouragement because our flesh is weak. Christianity is not about being the strongest person in the room, but it's about knowing where your strength comes from, right? So what does this look like? You're going to be faced in different circumstances in your life, in your workplace, in your marriage, as you're parenting, in your friendships, in your local church, where you're going to be tasked with doing a good thing during a hard season. A lot of times, because our God is a God of justice, we want our justice and we want it now. It's my money and I need it now. That's how we feel about justice, right? And sometimes that's not the lesson that we need to learn right now. And so I want to talk to you about a couple areas in life where we face the most relationships with people. And those come with times where the Lord wants to teach us something, and he's doing it in a way of pruning where we don't feel good, where what's happening to us may be unfair, may be unfortunate, may be unsettling. What do we do in the meantime? So let's talk about it. So let's talk about the workplace. The workplace, most people have a job, and most people's job consists of a team and a boss. And that means different personalities. That means people from different walks of life. That means experiencing life with people who may be non-believers. And like I said, the quicker you kind of understand that, like, some people are just not equipped to be good to you because they don't understand what good is. Like, we just define good, right? And if we're looking at good from the lens of God and the fruits of the Spirit, we cannot expect non-believers to get it. The quicker I realized that is the quicker I felt a lot more peace in my heart. Right? So let's talk about what this looks like in the workplace. Y'all, I actually just experienced this. And the trauma. But before my transition into full-time real estate, I had a job that I walked in being so optimistic about, and ended up being so hurt by. I wouldn't say I was broken, because I feel like I've walked with the Lord so much that I was able to be like, I see what you're trying to teach me, Lord. And at a certain point, I just started to kind of get in position and like do the things that I'm telling you to do now. Be good anyway, serve well anyway. But I was hurt. And what made me hurt even more is that this boss was a friend of mine for over a decade. We went to college together. I was in her wedding. I was a bridesmaid at her wedding. And she was really not a good boss to me, not a good person to me, and we ended our working relationship together mutually, but I also chose to end the friendship based on how I was treated. Like, without sharing too much, because it's still important to me to be wise in how I speak on my platform, and also to protect someone that I've known for over a decade. You don't just like lose a friendship like that and just start sharing everything and just start, speaking not unfavorable about someone. But I still feel like what I went through can help someone. So I'm going to share a little bit. So just to kind of set the tone, I remember this one time on my birthday. She doesn't even know how I felt about this, I don't think, because I just used wisdom and chose not to bring it up. But I remember one time, she asked me where I was going for my birthday. I think my birthday was in a couple weeks, and she asked me where I was going. And when I told her, literally the next day she went there, and it was like 2 places I was going to, and she went to both places to like beat me to it. That's the kind of person that she was. I should have known from them, but I had my own issues internally with the friends that I picked and how I chose and what I accepted and all that stuff. So that's where I played my part in the matter, right? There was also an extreme anger issue there. One of the ways that we got close is because, she had a girls' trip. We went on a girls' trip, like probably over 5 years at this point. And she went with her friends. Her and I were kind of growing our relationship when we got to the point where we could take a trip together. And so we did. And the very first night, she overindulged and physically assaulted everyone. It was to the point where we had a whole weekend together, and we only were there with her the first night because she ended up having to get her own place and do her own vacation because nobody wanted to be around her. At that point is kind of when we got close, because all of her friends from her childhood that were there, they decided that they wanted nothing to do with her. And I wanted to show her the love of the Lord. So I leaned in. And I was a great refuge for her at that time. And I think there were a lot of things she admired about me, my love of hosting, just my lifestyle. And I think she latched onto me because of that. And I think that we had a good friendship at the time. She was an atheist, and I was a believer, but we always kind of felt like, we don't have to be clones of each other, which is true. But sometimes I think that you shouldn't necessarily have like so much proximity to certain people, right? Nevertheless, due to those things, right, I still decided to work for this person because we were close. But that came with a lot of insecurities, a lot of projections, a lot of assumptions. And it ended up in not a great work experience, right? Like, I remember I would work from start to finish. I was new in the industry. I was just trying to soak up everything. I was so grateful to be working under her. And she would say things like, you shouldn't be getting all this help from me. I never got all this help. Why are you getting all this help? And just things like that. I would work from start to finish, not eat. It still wouldn't be enough. She would yell at me in front of people in the office so they can hear, just try to belittle me. She would hang up the phone on me. Like, it was a very horrible experience. It was so hard, and I ended up ending the friendship, after work, before I even stopped working with her. And so, why am I sharing this, right? I'm sharing this because in situations where the hard season is your boss, you may not be able to leave because just naturally in life, you may have some financial reasons why you need to be there, right? Luckily, I did not need to be there for financial reasons, but I was new to the industry and I had enough wisdom to know that it's not my time to leave yet because I have things to learn. And I also have a 4-year-old, so I'm pretty well versed on temper tantrums, right? And so in times like this, I want you to serve well anyway. What if you have a boss that has an anger issue? What if they're always upset? What if they're going through things at home and, they're taking out on you? What if they're just, not a graceful person, not a likable person, and you have to deal with them and you have to work for them because that's how you put food on your table, Sometimes in certain situations, you can't leave immediately. You have to get a new job, but getting a new job is like getting a job. And it's a process. And during that process, what do? You serve well anyway. Even if you have to go to the break room and cry, get your reports done. Get them done on time. You don't need to be perfect, but do well onto your boss and onto the Lord. Maybe it's your marriage. When I was doing dating content, one of the things that I always said was that a lot of times single women, they hyper-focus on being married and they forget that they are in such a sweet area of their lives where if you don't want to be with someone, you can leave. Like, you can decide to end the relationship, right? In marriage, divorce exists, obviously, but you're in a covenant. When something goes wrong, you can't just send a text and say, hey, I don't think we should see each other anymore, right? You have to work it out, and hopefully with God in the center. So what happens when you're in the newborn or toddler stage, and not only have you not been able to get any sleep, but you also don't have any space to have a date night and connect with one another? And the intimacy fails. Or what if you married a non-believer or someone who's a Christian but doesn't necessarily show spiritual growth or spiritual fruit? And what if they're wrong and loud about that deficiency, right? Most people who are wrong, they're usually loud, right? And so what do? When you are literally trying to, when happiness is literally slipping out of your fingers and you're trying to hold on to whatever you can that's left of that emotion? What do you do when you feel like no one gets it and this is the person that the Lord has given you and it's hard? You serve well anyway. You can't just leave a marriage, like I said. You have to go through it and push through it. And in these moments, we don't grow weary in doing good. There was a book that was recommended to my husband and I when we had premarital counseling, and I think it was called Tying the Knot. I know I have it in my house, but not right in front of me right now. But it talked about that. It talked just about focusing on you, what you can do, and not growing weary and doing good. A lot of times, sometimes that will influence your partner. Sometimes it will just show God that you trust him. Serve well anyway. And so, what if you've prayed for something? Right? What if you've been fervently praying for something and the Lord's answer to you has been not yet or no? Flat out no. Right? What do we do then? First of all, I do want to say that it's okay to be upset. We do this thing where we feel like, if we have any feelings that are not, Lord, I love you, Lord, I trust you, Lord, I believe you, that it's an attack on our commitment to the Lord or our salvation, and that's not true. God was here, and he was equally God and man, and he understands when we go through things and that we feel things. So go to God and tell him, Lord, I am praying, and I feel like you're not hearing me, and I'm not sure what what the reason is or what needs to take place, but Lord, I'm here, and you just go to him. You tell him what your true feelings are, and you ask him to give you comfort in your feelings. God, I'm feeling angry. Can you calm my heart? God, I'm feeling worried and anxious. Can you give me rest? Right? And also in the meantime, while you're in that season of waiting for something, ask yourself, what is God trying to teach me here? Maybe the Lord doesn't want to give you the thing, or maybe not yet, but maybe he wants to give you the character of the person you need to become that, to get that thing. If you're asking God for courage, maybe he's going to put you in situations where there's going to be fear, so you can develop into that person that has courage. Maybe if you ask God for grace, he's going to give you situations where you have to give it to someone. And usually that, on the other side of that, is someone doing something that you deem not okay. If you ask God for community, maybe he's going to put people in front of you that inconvenience you. So ask yourself, God, what are you trying to teach me here? In the meantime, while you wait for said thing. And then also be content on the fact that maybe God has something else for me. Maybe what I have is not what he has in his plan for me. And that's okay too. Right? So we talked about what this looks like, but let's talk about what it does not look like, right? This does not look like abuse. Right? Just because something feels bad or a season feels hard doesn't mean you need to leave right away. But it also doesn't mean that you need to be stuck in something that is clearly unrighteous forever. Right? I think we also do this thing in church where we feel like the more abuse you take is the more committed you are. And that's also not true. In situations like this, practically count the cost and the type of relationship and create small steps to get you out of that situation as soon as possible while serving well in the meantime, right? As we wrap today, know that the Lord sees. Christianity is kind of taught to us from a one-sided standpoint where it's like the Lord is watching you and he's going to be judging you for everything that you've ever done. And it's like, yeah, he is, but he also sees. He also sees when you're in a hard situation and you decide to remain steadfast. He also sees when you are responding to a situation in a more godlike way better than you did last year. He sees when you're not growing weary and doing good and when your actions reflect that. And that's what I want for you to keep with you today. All right, y'all. Today is, we're wrapping up. And I want you to know, the new mercy that I want you to see today is just know that the Lord is faithful. right? And in a hard season, know that He'll never leave you or forsake you. And knowing that, putting that in your heart and having that comfort you can allow you to not grow weary in doing good. He sees you when you are being steadfast. He sees you when you are committing to Him. He knows the situation is hard, but He also knows what's on the other side, even before we do. All right, y'all, have an amazing week, and I'll see you next time. Love you, mean it. Now go be blessed. See you in the next one. Bye.